research reveals full diversity of killer whales as two species come into view on Pacific Coast aerial image of southern resident killer whales taken in the Salish Sea off southern Vancouver Island during health research by SR3 Sea Life Response, Rehabilitation and Research. Images by John Durbin and Holly Fernbach using a non-invasive drone authorized by Research Permit 22,306 issued by the U.S. National Marine Fisheries Service. Scientists have resolved one of the outstanding questions about one of the world's most recognizable creatures, identifying two well-known killer whales in the North Pacific Ocean as separate species. The research is published in the journal Royal Society. Killer whales are one of the most widespread animals on Earth. They have long been considered one worldwide species, known scientifically as Orcanis orca, with different forms in various regions known as ecotypes. However, biologists have increasingly recognized the differences between resident and Biggs killer whales. Resident killer whales maintain tight-knit family pods and prey on salmon and other marine fish. Biggs killer whales roam in smaller groups, preying on other marine mammals such as seals and whales. Killer whales actually belong to the dolphin family. He noted in the 1970s that the two animals did not mix with each other even as they occupied many of the same coastal waters, which is often a sign of different species. The finding recognizes the accuracy of the listing of southern resident killer whales as a distinct population segment warranting protection under the Endangered Species Act in 2005. At the time, NOAA described the distinct population segment as part of an unnamed subspecies of resident killer whales in the North Pacific. We started to ask this question 20 years ago, but we didn't have much data, and we did not have the tools that we do now. Now, we have more of both, and the weight of the evidence says these are different species. Differences between two killer whale types in the North Pacific Ocean that new research recognizes as the first separate species of killer whales. Killer whales had long been known as one worldwide species. Genetic data from previous studies revealed that the two species likely diverged more than 300,000 years ago and come from opposite ends of the killer whale family tree. That makes them about as genetically different as any killer whale ecotypes around the globe. Subsequent studies of genomic data confirm that they have evolved as genetically and culturally distinct groups, which occupy different niches in the same northwest marine ecosystem. They're the most different killer whales in the world, and they live right next to each other and see each other all the time, said Barbara Taylor, a former NOAA fisheries marine mammal biologist who was part of the science panel that assessed the status of southern residents. They just do not mix. Recognizing new species. The scientists proposed scientific names for the new species based on their earliest published descriptions in the 1800s. Neither will keep the ubiquitous worldwide moniker orca. Hammerhead shark. Hammerhead sharks hold their breath in deeper, colder waters. Research shows sharks are among the best swimmers on the planet, but new research suggests that even they sometimes hold their breath while diving deep underwater. The reason is that sharks are ectothermic, or cold-blooded, and their body temperature essentially matches the waters they swim in. To do deep dives, they must conserve body heat, and the best way to do that is to tightly close their gill slits. It all makes sense, but the idea of a fish holding its breath underwater still shocks and baffles me, says Mark Royer, a researcher at the University of Hawaii at Manoa and the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, who led the study. We don't need a bigger boat. Royer set out to study the diving habits of a species of sharks called scalloped hammerheads. They're known for swimming in coastal waters with warmer temperatures, but earlier studies showed they can also dive to more than 2,600 feet, 800 meters, below the surface. At those frigid depths, the water temperature drops to as low as 41 degrees Fahrenheit, 5 degrees Celsius. It'd be a shock to anyone's system, Royer says. Imagine you're on a warm, sunny beach, and then you hop out of the warm water and immediately plunge into an ice bath. But for these sharks, the drop in temperature is a matter of life and death. Because a shark can't generate its own body heat, it begins to freeze the deeper it goes. Its muscles, eyes, and brain become sluggish. If it gets too cold, it can't swim. And if it stops swimming, water doesn't move across its gills. It can't breathe. It essentially drowns. Some other large fish have specialized anatomy that allows them to stay warmer at great depths. But scalloped hammerheads do not, Royer says. That raised an obvious question. How is it that a coastal warm tropical species is able to go down into these deep depths and survive? Welcome to the Mammalverse. Scientists sequence DNA from 240 species around the world. To find out, Royer and his colleagues went to the bay near their lab where the hammerheads swim. They used a small boat because we want to be able to lean over and get as close as possible. They briefly caught the fish and attached an electronic sensor package to each shark's fin. This is essentially like putting a Fitbit on the shark, he says. The Sharky Fitbit would release itself from the fin after several weeks underwater. The deep dive. When Royer and his colleagues later analyzed the data, what they found amazed them. The sharks dive, spend just a few minutes at depth, probably hunting squid, and then they pitch themselves upward at an 80-degree angle and shoot towards the surface. What's really wild is that their body temperature doesn't drop. It stays steady until they start coming back from the deep. Royer quickly realized what was going on. They were closing their gill slits and preventing the water from flowing across their gills that would cool their body down, he says. The sharks then reopened their gills once they got closer to the surface. The finding was published on Thursday in the journal Science. The behavior is seen in marine mammals, and humans, obviously, but unlike animals with lungs, the sharks don't return to the surface to breathe. Instead, they simply go to a depth where it's warm enough for them to feel comfortable and open their gills again. Scalloped hammerheads may not be the only ones doing this. This strategy could be widespread. Untangling mysteries of the brain with the remarkable biology of Squid's giant nerve fibers have been essential to research for decades. Now, breakthroughs in editing squid genomes could lead to a more complete understanding of nervous systems in general. "We've got tubes!" fisherman Matt Rissell shouts as he leans over the gunnel of the skipjack to check his line. After a salty April morning, spent bobbing off the coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, the first squid of the season are coming in. Rissell reels and a foot-long male Doryteuthis pile, though everyone on this boat refers to it by its older name, loligo, emerges from the waves spouting water and waggling its 2 tentacles and 8 sucker-covered arms. The iridescent skin of its mantle, the tube, is flecked with pink, teal, and gold, until in a flash, as Rissell brings the squid over the side, it transforms to an angry maroon. Other boats are out for the squid run too. Poles bend across the small fleet of reel and rod outfits gathered here in shallow waters, where the squid come to spawn each spring. The animals spend the rest of the year jetting around deep underwater canyons, ensnaring fish, crustaceans, and even fellow squid. Further out, commercial trawlers drag long nets, each year landing thousands of tons of squid, most of which are destined for the deep fat fryer. The squid pulled into the skipjack, however, have a more cerebral purpose. They will be taken to the Woods Hole Marine Biological Laboratory a few miles to the west, where for nearly a century, these squid have played a vital role in neuroscience research. The animals have helped scientists shed light on everything from the basics of nerve signaling to the evolution of complex brains. Study of the squid's unique biology could eventually lead to improved therapies for neurological and genetic disorders in humans. Last year, this research took a major step forward when a group of scientists at the laboratory successfully used the gene editing tool CRISPR-Cas9 to disable or knock out a gene in the Doryteuthis squid, a first for any member of the talented group of mollusks known as cephalopods. The work paves the way for scientists to investigate the genetics behind cephalopods' near-extraterrestrial abilities, from squids' color-changing skin cells to cuttlefish's duplicitous mating behavior to octopus's capacity for memory and learning. How have they figured out different ways to make these complex behaviors? Wonders molecular biologist Josh Rosenthal as he reels a squid into the skipjack, then flips it off his jig into a tank of water where it disappears in a bloom of black ink. These things that basically came more from a clam than from a vertebrate. Historically, however, it was another feature of the squid that made them famous among neuroscientists. As the skipjack heads back, with at least 70 squid in the tank, Rosenthal, who led the CRISPR research at the Marine Biological Laboratory, yells over the engine, "It was their giant nerve cells." Recent research on squid includes discovering new pygmy squid species, observing a black-eyed squid brooding thousands of eggs, developing eco-friendly treatments to protect squid eggs from parasites in aquaculture systems, and studying the unique properties of squid teeth for potential applications in self-healing materials. Scientists are also exploring squid-inspired jet propulsion technology for needle-free drug delivery systems. Squid have tiny teeth in their suckers. Scientists could use unique properties to make self-healing materials. When you think of a fearsome, sharp-toothed predator, a squid probably isn't the first animal that comes to mind. But these complex creatures have sophisticated eyesight, a strong beak to crush shells, and agile tentacles that help them snatch up prey. Oh, and they have teeth in their suckers. The serrated teeth inside the suction cups on their tentacles allow them to latch onto prey. While most hard tissues in animals are mineralized, with calcium fortifying their bones, shells, or teeth, the squid's sucker teeth are instead composed of structural proteins. Scientists don't really understand how these teeth are made. By looking inside a squid sucker using an electron microscope, our team of scientists captured an image that shows the cell tissue that grows the teeth. The cells located in the inside walls of the suction cup secrete proteins that bind to each other and form complex teeth ring structures.